They say animals don't understand our deepest hurts, but what if one of them could feel yours better than any human ever did? What would you do differently if someone or something simply sat with your pain until it didn't feel so heavy? I want to tell you a story that might change how you think about grief, presence, and what it means to be cared for. This is the true account of a dog named Luna, who chose day after day to feel alongside the person she loved most. If you've ever felt alone in your sadness or wondered whether comfort can come from unexpected places, watch until the end, because the way this story resolves may give you a small, honest map for how to keep going. Luna was a medium-sized shepherd mix with a patch of white on her chest, like a small star. She lived with a man named Daniel, a quiet librarian who loved old books and routine. Each morning, Daniel walked to the local library, fed by the ritual of shelves and tea, and each evening, he returned to a modest apartment smelling of paper. Luna followed him like a shadow. She learned the rhythm of his day, the exact moment he would pause by the second shelf on the right, the way he folded newspaper corners before shelving them. Those small details became the grammar of their life together. When Daniel's sister died in a car crash, something inside him shifted. Grief arrived like weather. He stopped sleeping, left meals untouched, and missed the sound of Luna padding across the floor. He sat for hours in the library, staring at a single page without reading, or wandered the city streets without purpose. Luna noticed. Dogs notice, of course, but Luna did something more than notice. She tuned herself to him. She adjusted the pitch of her breathing when he was restless. She learned the schedule of his silences and arrived precisely when his breaths became thin. Neighbors watched the small ritual. "He doesn't have much to say these days," an elderly neighbor commented. "But the dog has been his world." Daniel's colleagues saw his appetite return when Luna sat beside him at lunch. Library patrons noticed his laugh returning at odd lines in books when Luna took her place at his feet. Daniel didn't speak about the comfort. It was quiet and mutual. People began leaving extra biscuits on purpose or telling him small, ordinary news just to see a spark. Those tiny acts of engagement mattered, but Luna was the steadying force beneath them all. Weeks turned into months. Nights when Luna lay awake until Daniel finally came to bed, and mornings she woke first, offering the smallest comfort of routine, her tail tapping the floor like a metronome of normalcy. One winter evening, Daniel's grief deepened. City lights blurred through rain as he sat on the balcony, hands wrapped around a lukewarm mug, feeling time fold in on itself. He whispered fragments of memory, lists of what he should have done, apologies he hadn't meant to say aloud. Luna, sensing a dangerous quiet, altered her behavior. She climbed onto the chair beside him and leaned her body against his, a silent insistence. "Stay." She licked his hand. She breathed in the same shallow rhythm. When he talked about leaving, about giving up, Luna's eyes did not seek a solution. They only reflected attention and a steady refusal to abandon him to despair. That night, Daniel allowed himself to sleep. It was a small miracle of constancy. Months later, Daniel enrolled in therapy. He credited Luna when asked why he kept moving forward. "She won't leave me," he said, and his therapist nodded. Therapy gave him language, tools, a place to speak. Luna's role was complementary. Where therapy named grief, Luna taught the body how to breathe through it. The combination rebuilt a daily life. The relationship didn't erase pain. Grief stayed like a scar, but the scar didn't stop him from living. As seasons braided together, Daniel found rituals to honor his sister. A bench in the park, a small scholarship in her name, a shelf of her favorite books. Luna attended these rituals in her way, standing quietly, sitting at his feet during readings, leaning into the air when he recited a memory. One spring, Daniel began volunteering with a hospice program where therapy dogs visited patients. He worried Luna's exposure to suffering might reopen old wounds, but he also sensed a purpose. On their first day, a nurse led them to a room with an old woman listening to a radio. The woman opened her eyes when Luna entered, reached a slow hand, and patted the dog as if remembering a long-forgotten touch. The change in the woman's face was immediate. Less tension, more breath. That small exchange kept Daniel from turning away. Over time, stories multiplied. A man with late-stage cancer whispered his wife's name when Luna rested her head on his lap. A child who refused to eat brightened when the dog nudged open a small container. Caregivers said the hospice felt quieter, less frantic on days Luna visited. Daniel watched from doorways, humbled. He began to see Luna not only as a companion, but as a silent teacher. Her presence offered people a path back to themselves, without questions, without judgment. A winter storm brought a new test. A young father arrived after a stroke, angry and unreachable. He pushed away family and nurses. When Daniel and Luna entered, the man stared. Luna sat at a careful distance, then inched closer, placing her head on the edge of the bed. The man flinched, then relaxed, his jaw unclenching. He sobbed once, soft and brief, and then fell into a sleep that had eluded him. The nurses later told Daniel they hadn't seen that man rest like that in days. Luna had not fixed him. She had not erased his condition, but she had created a pocket of calm in which the body's defenses lowered and the mind could briefly let go. Presence, it turned out, had a practical power. It reduced stress markers, calmed breathing, and built an opening for people to access something beneath panic. Daniel learned that the dog's work was not heroic in spectacle, but radical in quiet. He began to train volunteers not to teach tricks, but to notice how to sit, how to allow, how to be still. The training emphasized listening without speaking, hands placed gently, eyes soft. It was less about changing behavior and more about witnessing. The volunteers came to understand that sometimes the most effective intervention is the one that removes pressure rather than adds it. Stories rippled outward. Families wrote to the library to thank them. Volunteers applied for programs bringing dogs into schools and shelters. Luna's gentle model became a template. Show up, sit, and breathe. It was not always enough. There were beds where disease was final and faces that did not soften. There were nights when Daniel felt his old heaviness return and could not find the words to explain why Luna's presence felt both a balm and a reminder. But the small reports accumulated into a local culture change. Neighbors began stopping by. More often, the library started a reading aloud program that paired children with animals. And people spoke more openly about how presence had helped them through hard days. Many asked if Luna's presence could replace human connection. It could not. And it did something subtler and more powerful. Luna became a bridge back to ordinary life. With her at his side, Daniel relearned simple social acts. Greeting the cashier, returning a borrowed book with a note, accepting an invitation for coffee. Each small step felt safer because Luna reduced the risk of panic and offered calm company. Those tiny moments added up. A phone call that might have been avoided was answered. Invitations were accepted. Conversations restarted. The stitches of community slowly healed what isolation had torn. Luna's quiet work multiplied. She supported healing that became public life, proving kindness can ripple far. Years later, when Daniel's hair grayed and his walks to the library became slower, Luna remained his steadying companion. She aged with him, muzzle whitening, movements measured. When she finally stopped waking up beside his bed, Daniel carried her to the old oak behind the library, where they'd read on sunny days. He spoke as he had when she first came to him, without theatrics, with plain gratitude. "You kept me," he told her. "You kept me here." Neighbors brought flowers and notes. Hospice staff sent a letter about the lives she'd touched. Daniel's grief came back, as grief always does, but differently, a weathered ache that reminded him of what he'd been given. Luna's memory lived like a method, an instruction to be present, to honor, to hold steady. If Luna's story offers one practical lesson, it is simple. Show up, sit, breathe, attend. The world asks for complicated answers to suffering, but sometimes the simplest acts are enough to hold a person through the night. If this moved you, subscribe to When Animals Feel for more real stories that show how animals meet human pain with quiet courage. Share this video if you believe presence can heal.